Welcome to Constellation. We have a lot to talk about.
Let's talk about Bethesda Cities in various games and how things might change in Starfield. We'll go all the way back to Morrowind, with the NPCs stood around, idle talk, very few idle animations to bring it to life, quest givers, shopkeepers, that kind of thing. I think Oblivion was probably still using the Morrowind idea up until idle animation started getting introduced that you could use easily on NPCs, which I did use in my mods for Oblivion. And suddenly, Skyrim and Fallout 4 hit the deck, and the idle animations are a full-blown feature. You can stick down and have the AI packets you, so they go up to an idle animation spot, and it goes, here, you must drink a beer. So the idle animation causes the NPCs to drink a beer. Suddenly the sound of the cities are a lot more interesting, they're a lot more alive, there's more things going on, and it basically looks better, a lot better. We see it in Skyrim. Well, I think Fallout New Vegas was the first game to actually start using city life effectively outside of Bethesda's own studios. I did quite a lot of that in my Oblivion mods, but I'm talking about things connected to Bethesda, Obsidian in this case. So yeah, you get to New Vegas, the Strip especially. You can see the city life going on around here. The quests are local. They're about the local city and what's going on and interactions. So when you do the quests there, you kind of get immersed in the local scene, and it builds it up. It makes you feel part of that world. And when you leave and go somewhere else, then quests become irrelevant outside of that city. What happens if you just went up to a random NPC, got talking, and they decided they like you and wanted to invite you back to their house for a cup of tea? Or maybe somebody fancied you, right? I mean, surely that's part of city life too. And what about you stumbling across gangs that want to rob you in the back alleys, streets? I mean, there's a bit of that in Fallout New Vegas. What happens if it was more common? Says, and what happens if you had, in shiny cities, you had tech gangs, and in the slums you had druggies, your drug dealers and stuff like that, where poor people tend to be more inclined to use drugs. And what happens if it's a major problem and the whole town has got a massive drug problem? Shouldn't we see more people smashed out of their head on the streets? Or are they all going to be stone cold sober whilst there's a problem? There's ways of building up cities to make them feel better. This is the point. And for instance, if you had a museum in the capital, right, somewhere, and you walked in and it showed you relics from around the sector. Suppose we'll call this sector 0 Alpha. Just top off my head. You go in, you see a museum, and you see an old skull. You click on it, it gives you information. It tells you where the skull was found. It appears on the map, on your map. So if you wanted to, you can go there and take a look at the planet where it came from. And all the relics have this feature, where you could find out a little bit about it from a museum, and then this planet has these creatures with this skull, or that alien artifact came from this ruin on that world, that kind of thing. And what if you're actually on a port, you see people running back and forth carrying crates, unloading a ship manually or maybe with fork trucks, stuff like that. And you go and talk to them, and maybe they'll say, well, we got a load of stuff we want shifting to World X. It's right over there, that big pile of crates you see. Do you want to move it for so many credits? And you go, yeah, sure, load it up. And then they start running up to load it up into your truck, because you basically talk to the dock workers and they've given you the job. And maybe there's a union on the dock, and if you join the union, you're more likely to get the jobs. Union boss, and maybe that union boss is a bit of a crook. Maybe it's Brando time. Anyway, it says you get the idea, The keeping it local approach is how you make cities come alive. You immerse people in the local scene. If you walk, because the danger with science fiction is they're dry and have no depth. This is what I usually find, they have no depth. So the danger with Starfield is you'll load up the game, it'll just be a generic city with no balls, no meat and two veg. It's just generic. And we need to avoid that. I do think Bethesda probably have avoided that based on what I've seen of the the cities so far. So it is probably something they're being very much aware of, and they've already tackled it. I certainly hope so. But anyway, it says if you think of everybody in a city has their own story, you take that approach, then basically you could be going up to a stranger in the city. They might be neurotic. They might suddenly follow you around or something and won't let you go. Or maybe it's a thief and you talk to them, they look you up and down if he's rich, and they eye you up to beg, and later you just, every time you turn up somewhere, they're on the street corner watching you. And maybe it's up to you to notice this is happening. Because maybe the very act of talking to him is engaged a quest, what I call a background quest, that makes him follow you around for a bit before him and his mates rob you. You see? So you've got that interaction going on. And if you walk around your own city and you see what goes on, people eating ice cream, playing in fountains, sitting outside restaurants having something to eat, drinking in the streets, littering, arguing, fighting. This is the kind of background we should be having. This is the painting on the wall, right, as you walk into a room. In this case, this is the painting in a city as you enter the city. So we bring it to life. And over the years, Bethesda's been better and better at doing that. But we're still a long way to go. But why do I think it should be better this time? Because these all require CPU time and memory. And even the new consoles are vastly more powerful than they used to be. So cities can be vastly more complicated than they've ever been before. As a consequence, they should be livelier, better. If they're not, it'd be down to pure laziness. I mean, I spent a lot of time, if you look at my Return to Helgen mod, which is also available on the Xbox, and you look at that, you'll see I've gone to a lot of effort to make it feel alive. And you can see people mining, you can see people, smithing, doing all kinds of stuff. They're all busy. And then you've got patrols. You get the Legion stand on parade in the morning. That kind of thing going on. There's a routine in the city, and you can learn it if you wanted to. I mean, plus, I try to give as many jobs there, that's quests to you, in that thing as possible. So whoever you talk to, there was something going on. There was something to do, whether it was there's a potential mine in Helgen which you could open and make money from, or it's a patrol or something along them lines, with the major quest being put on top of all of that to finish it off, like layers. With the cities and stuff, I mean, if you're doing a capital, then it's an administration centre. So what about the admins, these bureaucrats? Oh yes, you need a 61293BZY form, the red one, and I need it in triplicate by Sunday. That kind of thing. And maybe if Jesus Christ, and maybe because I've done this in the Elder Council mod, I don't know if you've ever seen that feature, but he just talks your head off. And he won't shut up about forms, and you can't remember what he's talking about. Oh yes, you need the blue 239 form next. And don't forget to get it stamped by the Office of Budget Responsibility or something like that. You think, oh, sod this, I'm going to ask that guy over there if he can do it for free. And have that kind of thing going on. So when you went to a council room, you know it's going to be a pain in the ass. And that adds character. It can also be quite funny if it's done right. So you see what I'm saying? You can build up the city with these characters. And it's actually fun to do it that way. I mean, the first time you play through a city, you get to know these characters. It's going to make the city feel rich. And like I said in the press, it says sci-fi has a danger of being boring and mundane and, generic. And it doesn't have to be. Right? It's just a lack of imagination. And I think, the museum idea of things like that and gangs on the streets and people following you around, this is how you bring it to life. And we can see the big change from Morrowind all the way through to the videos we've seen of Starfield already. So I do think we're already on that path. But let's look at Far Harbour as an example of what young people joining Bethesda can do to impress, Todd and his crew. Because Far Harbour was a really, really good DLC. And the first settlement you visit there just nailed the atmosphere. And I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that nailing the atmosphere so you walk in and you just feel it's alive. It's utterly convincing. Guilds, everything else, that gets put on top of what I'm talking about in this video. So this is the background to the main quest, to guilds, to things like that. You could have characters in a city which are known to everybody in the city. Maybe a beggar, maybe it's something else, a corrupt cop. Things like this all going on. Everybody knows. You don't have to kill them. You don't have quests necessarily attached to them. Just a bit of dialogue that says, yeah, this guy's a good guy. That guy there will rob you blind. Oh, don't turn your back on that guy there. Oh, this guy here, he's poor. He lost his family. You don't have to have a quest. It's just background information about the city and its residents, and it adds to the layers and layers and layers and depth. Cities, if they're made interesting, they're successful cities, in a game at least. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Let me know what you think. Bye.